Hello and welcome everyone to Nerds Talking. I am your host Connor, and I will be joined by Wade. And in this podcast, we will be talking everything from RPG tabletops all the way to PC gaming and everything in between. We will use some adult language to note, but stay with us and hope you enjoy. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Sorry for our little drought with a couple days or a week and a half off or whatever. Life's been busy with Halloween and whatnot, and we were busy finishing up our D&D campaign, as well as having our Halloween one-shot and whatnot. But today, as always, I'm Connor, and joined with me is Wade. Today we're going to be talking some D&D. We're going to be talking a little bit of WoW, some anime, Blood of Zeus. Yeah. So one thing before we get started, because I always fucking forget this, is I want to thank all the new listeners first off, because we have been seeing some decent traction. So thank you everybody for out there who's listening. We greatly appreciate that. Second is we are are on all of the major platforms, if I could speak. So make sure to go check us out. We're not just on like YouTube or whatever, we're on Spotify, Google Podcast,
Apple,
Apple. So
iTunes,
yeah, iTunes. So go check us
Spotify. I
out.
think
Talk
iHeartRadio
shoe.
too.
Yes. So actually, dude, are we? I don't know if I ever got an email about that, but I think we are. Um, and then on top of that, we did get a Discord made, or a subreddit made, which has our Discord linked in it. So I'll put that in the description of the YouTube video. But what's that at, Wade? So if anybody wants to,
It is r/CW Craft.
and it's just all one word, and that's r slash, and it's forward slash, right? CW
Yeah.
Craft on Reddit. You can find out. And the whole point of this, guys and gals, is to ask questions. If you guys want to ask questions, talk shit, do whatever. I mean, if you talk shit, just be ready to have it come back. That's all I'm gonna say. But no, I mean, ask some questions, or if there's anything you guys want to hear us talk about, that's where you can reach out to us. And we do every episode in Discord. So I don't know. I just off the top of my head right now, we could do something really cool with like doing the podcast live in Discord and have like patrons or something be able to just listen live while we do it. That would be really cool. Like they wouldn't even have to wait for it to get released. They could just be like, wow, we're hearing this live. Anyway, maybe that's for another time. But I don't even know if I want to have a patron. That's way too fucking. Anyway, so check it out. Follow, subscribe, do all that shit. We greatly appreciate it though. And now actually talking about some stuff. So today, it doesn't even matter. So last week we had our one shot. It was wait, I'll let you say it. What did I call it?
Something
Oh
med school.
God,
I don't
yeah,
remember
yeah,
exactly.
something. It was basically you describe it. Give it. I know what I would describe it as, but
Oh, there's a bunch of movement puzzles, bunch of
no. Don't
difficult
don't don't
combats.
don't go that deep. Don't go that deep. I'm talking like theme
Theme
wise. Yeah,
wise,
theme wise.
I don't know.
If you haven't listened up till now, and this is your first episode, we ran a D&D one shot. Um, we just followed up on a 3-month campaign. So
the one shot. The theme was basically we were all parts. We were all students at a school for adventurers,
right,
and like some noble was pissed off his son wasn't accepted.
right.
Little do we know that like he was like a half dragon or some shit. So like shit got spicy and a bunch of shit happened.
So
And then my teammate lightning bolted my guy in the back.
yes, that's what I was getting ready to say. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that. So starting off, the one shot. So I had him in like this big tower. So the tower, did you even get it? Like, did you even give a fuck about the story? Be real, or were you just like, come on?
Oh, you mean about like I mean the story is very simplistic. I mean like we couldn't like
I
deep
mean,
dive
right,
into it.
right. We didn't
I
have
mean it
time, but
wasn't bad.
Right, but I mean, like, it made sense, right? To a point at least.
Correct.
Like, what was the most? So basically, they were at like a Hogwarts that was getting mystified by some outsourced magic. Wow, there you go. So that's gonna be in it. Wait, that car that goes
Yeah, that shit was
outside. Wait,
loud.
that is outside Wade's house. I'm not even gonna edit that shit. Fuck it.
Like,
Um,
holy fuck.
yeah. So the whole mindset of the campaign was fun shit, hard combat, trying to make them all die, and then giving them actual hard checks to see if they could do
And
it.
another thing is like I think you were playtesting like actually just like fucking killing us.
I mean, I was actually play testing the next campaign in a lot of
Yeah.
aspects.
Like
I was,
act like actually fucking us up instead of just being like, well,
yeah,
let's just roll so John doesn't die.
yeah, or
You're just like
or
he's unconscious again.
yeah, and I'm just yeah, I wanted to
Because
bring
he's a
it.
wizard who like won't fucking move out of melee combat.
I'm not gonna lie, I almost wish that you guys like would have gone after the crystals more. Anyway, hang on. All right, so they started in a tower. You guys were talking to the headmaster. Big old lightning bolt or whatever struck the building. You guys had to then fall down this crumbling building. And I made them like go through like actual checks to like jump like Indiana Jones style or like Assassin's Creed style down these like pieces of
A crumbling
rubble.
building.
Yeah, that
Which
way.
didn't work out for pretty much everyone but me because like I was the only dex-based character.
Hey,
Like we had like two gnome wizards,
well, I
a
figured
high
a
elf
lot of
wizard that had
people.
no idea what he was doing.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. I had like little things. I had the beginning, which was supposed to be if someone didn't take a wizard and someone that was like, a rogue or something, they would probably excel at that. And the wizards probably wouldn't. And then I also had, like the combat at the end. That was a wizard combat, honestly. Like you guys didn't spread out. Like you guys completely played that shit awful.
I
Like you
wouldn't
guys
even say that was a wizard combat because you made them like they all took fire spells and you put us against a fire dragon, so all
I
their
mean, that
magic
was
was
just
fucking
lucky.
worthless.
That was luck, though. I already
Uh,
wrote it.
Meta. If we're talking about like spell meta, most of like the really good damaging spells are fire spells, like all of them.
Well,
So like because of the rules of
then
the one
that's
shot where we
even
only get one
better.
spell per
I didn't
where we
even
get one
write that
spell
in.
per slot, like like a wizard in our one shot only had like 3 spells and 2 cantrips.
I need to speed it up.
So like people had like fireball and stuff, but like the thing was like fucking immune to fucking
Okay, so
that and we introduced martial checking, which is the
yeah,
mechanic we picked up from Arcadum's D session
yeah, that was
on
cool.
Twitch.
Yeah, I'm down with that. That's cool. I think that like as we play more with shit like this, I'm gonna start experimenting with classes. Like I think that you and I in
hmm
our downtime should honestly start coming up with our own like I don't know, like I don't want to say our own
Well, the
classes,
ability to
but
martial check allows you as the DM to throw some funky shit at us that like you don't explain what it does.
right.
You're just like, and this effect happens. Like that golem we fought in the last one that like kept shooting light.
Mm-hmm.
It, with martial checking, we could check what that did, and we'd have to figure it out.
See that makes sense because with the way the normal rule set is, it's just like, well, it's just shoot.
Because like right now, how it is like you'll throw something obscene at us, and like most of us will be cool with it, but like someone will just be like, "Man, what?" And
Right.
usually that person is me or Brian. I'm gonna be honest. Laura will just be like, "It does what now?"
Yeah.
And the ability to martial check completely just puts that on us instead of you.
Right. Because it's not like I'm just coming up with some random damage. I like it's an actual thing I've created, and if you want to know about it, you see it be used. You should be able to make some checks on it.
And for a quick tutorial on what martial checking is, as per Arcadum's house rule, is the DC is 10 plus the monster's hit die. So if it has like a D6 hit die, it's a 16 intelligence check. And if you're a martial class, it's your intelligence plus your proficiency. If you're a wizard, it's just your intelligence.
So basically, layman's terms, it's something that some dude was like, yo, I want to homebrew some shit and I want to give my players a way to actually figure out what that shit is since it's not in a book. And I'm just going to throw random stuff at it. And they're able to just figure
And
out
they
the
made something,
monster's
and it makes
weaknesses.
sense.
It does make sense because, like, if you're in a fight, I don't think you should necessarily, maybe, maybe not first round. I don't think you should be able to martial check maybe first round unless you've like seen an ability used and then you martial check that ability.
No. With how this is where you're wrong. With how martial check works in Arcadum's games, you can martial check 3 things. You can martial check its resistances and its damage and its vulnerabilities,
Okay.
and that's 2 checks in itself.
Okay.
And then you check how many abilities it has, and
Damn.
then you have to do subsequent checks per ability you want to identify.
So like, are we talking
So, for
abilities
example,
or spells?
both.
So
So, for
like,
example, I watched them fight a boss, and they martial checked how many spell slots it had.
oh my
And then
god.
they had to martial check the caltrops it was laying down and the debuffs it was giving them. So like they all did it in like 2 rounds, but like everybody had to pass the martial check. That was like 5 people dedicating their bonus action for the entire first round of initiative
Yeah, but
on martial checking.
Yeah, but bonus action's not that big of a deal.
It is
To
for
a
a lot of
point.
classes.
To a point, but not to gain info on how to beat the monster.
It
To
is
me.
because
To
like they
me.
didn't. You have to realize that's 10 bonus actions to run a check that has a possibility of failure.
True. I get that. I'm down with that. My my thing is that how do I leave something so how do you leave something like in the dark to the players then? If you make everything a yes or a no based on a roll die, like
How you
as the
make something
DM.
dark to the players?
Yeah,
Well,
well, no, like
they couldn't identify an ability they haven't seen yet. Was what Arcadum said.
right. That's
Because
what
somebody
I'm
asked him.
saying. Right.
So like for example, they had they tried to kill the monster with martial clashes, which is another rule thing that a lot of people run in D&D that I had no idea about. That sounds really cool, but like I don't know how it works. But he had an ability that fucked clashes, but like they didn't know about that ability because nobody tried to clash with it yet.
See, but that's
So that
just
happened.
that's just turning into like a whole nother thing. Like I
Yeah,
get
it's
where
like
that's
it's a
going.
huge meta deep dive. But like for example, like you can't check something you haven't seen.
Right, but then how do you know how many spell slots something has? Like I don't think that should be a check.
No, it's not spell slots. It's the type of abilities they have. So like you'd know how many spells they know. You wouldn't know what the spells are until you see them, and then you'd have to run a martial check on the spell.
I
So like
mean,
you'd be like the thing has like 5 abilities. You've seen one of them cast. Now you can run a martial check on that one ability, so you can determine that ability's effects. But the monster now has 4 additional abilities. You have no fucking idea what they do, but they have 4 additional abilities. And then once they do them, you can martial check and figure out the effects of the ability.
see, I don't know if I like the other people knowing how many abilities it has. Because then as a party how many times you need to draw out possibly different abilities. And if you can do that, the full monster's arsenal. And I think that should be able to just be done by just fighting the monster.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. But you won't. But the issue here is like this would allow you to do things and be like, you see radiant light on you. You have no fucking idea what it does, but you're glowing. And then they move and they take damage. Or like the second they start glowing, they could martial check that fucking ability and figure out if they move, they fucking take damage.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, there
So
needs to be things that are in the unknown. If I
that has
leave
it
it,
has to be seen before it can be martial checked.
Right.
You can't just be like,
No, but
I
once
want to
it's
run a martial
cast,
check.
no, but
What's the
once,
ability to do?
right, but
It's only fucking attacked once, but it hasn't used this. But what's it do? No, it has to be a scene thing.
yeah,
Like
but in
the
the
monster has
exact
to use it.
instance that you just said is a perfect example. You are flashed a beam of light and you haven't moved yet. So you can martial check it and know what it is before you even have any effect because you then have knowledge without when in my mind.
That's how intelligence checks works in D&D. And if you don't like that, then any intelligence check you'd also hate because it gives the player's
How's
knowledge
that
that
an
they
intelligence
as
check?
players won't know.
That's literally just a homebrew rule somebody made up and they
No, it is
brought
an
it in.
intelligence check. It's literally it
I
uses the same rules as
I'm
investigation.
understanding that, but it's a homebrew rule. I get that it's an intelligence check. You as the DM can't just allow everything in the game, in my opinion, to be an ability check, because then that takes too much away from the DM. Like you said, if I put something on
I
you,
think that gives way more to the DM because you stop explaining what it fucking does all the time. It's on
I
us to
shouldn't
figure out what
need
it
to. I
does.
shouldn't need to explain it at all. Because if you get hit by something as you move, oh, you're taking damage. You start walking, and as you start walking, your legs start,
Or in a
aching and tensing.
non-homebrew setting, say it's Matt Mercer, he would allow the person to arcana check the magical effect to see what it did, or and so on. Like it's not that vicious of a homebrew rule.
I'm not saying it's vicious. I'm saying that it literally allows very little counterplay for the monster.
It's there's no fucking counterplay in D&D. It's not a fucking versus game.
I know it's not a versus game,
Like
but
if you play
once
Divinity 2,
right, but
you
once you
can
know the
fucking
monster,
run
it's easy.
identify on enemies and figure out its entire stat block.
Right,
So like
right.
it's not that fucking nuts.
I'm not saying it's nuts. I'm just saying that when you have a game with not 4 or 5 people, we're not talking Matthew Mercer's game. We're not talking Soda Poppins or whatever's game. We're talking our game where we have an obscene amount of people. And if I can have the first 3 or 4 people in 80% of the combats be able to check and know what the whole group does,
They won't though.
they will.
Unless you pop all of its abilities
Wade, what'd
on
you
one
say it's
turn,
based
they
off
will
of?
not.
It doesn't matter. Wade, you have 8 people. So all it takes is 4 rounds, and what you're telling me that I'm not going to use?
If the monster uses all 4 different abilities every single round, then yes, you can identify all the fucking
Right, and
abilities of
how
the monster.
and how do our monsters work? We give them 2 actions because of the amount of players we have. So one big
So
bad.
mostly by the time we figure out the effects, the monster's already dead. So it's not really a big fucking deal.
Right, that's my point. So why would I give you more information on the monster that you guys are already going to 2 or 3 turn? Why would I make it any easier? In my mind. And
That's not
you
making it easier. That's so somebody doesn't fucking waste an entire fucking action on like fucking doing psychic damage. Like
But that's how you
I get
figure
like
it out. But that's how you figure it out. You want to play it like it's a video game where it's like you can learn the
no, it's not.
resistances.
You learning the resistances and stuff is fine. Like I get like okay, so abilities, but like
No,
damage
go what
resistance.
you
It's
were
like
gonna say,
is
like
the
a
monster
psychic
deaf? Can I
ability.
run a skill check to see if the monster's deaf so I don't fucking waste a turn
Or you
on a
no,
spell
no,
that
how
only
about you
affects people
yell
that
at
can
it?
hear?
How about you yell at it? How are you gonna use a check when
The
in
check would be yelling at it and
right,
determining
so
its reaction.
yell at it.
That would still be an intelligence check.
No, just yell at
In
it.
essence, a martial check.
Yeah, but then in my essence there should be a reaction, like maybe you actually do yell. And then there's a role playing scenario. You want to do it as in a check where you roll a dice and there's a right and a
Okay,
wrong.
so then stop doing perception checks unless somebody like not perception, charisma checks. Just get those out of your game then.
We don't have them in our game actually, because we don't RP, so that's not even an
Well, then we
issue.
should have charisma checks because we don't RP.
Right, we do persuasion when you guys try and haggle. That's about all you guys do. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I know our game pretty well, Wade. When I'm telling you that like you think that's a great idea, it is. It is. I'm not saying it isn't.
It's a great
But
idea, except nobody fucking plays intelligence-based characters at all. So like only one person would
dude, if you're telling
justifiably
me on a
succeed on that
10,
check.
no, it's not. With the amount of gear you guys get where you're ramping up, if you're telling me that it's a D, what their
Gear
hit
doesn't
die
increase your
is plus
stats.
what? their D
Yeah,
hit.
that's like a 16, and then like unless you're an intelligence-based character, you're going to be like a +3, which means you
Okay.
succeed on like a 13.
Yeah,
No,
or a
you succeed on a
12
14.
or a
No,
12.
no, not on a 12 because that's a 15 and the DC 16.
Wait, I'm looking at like half your guys' characters right now because I have some of the papers. Almost all of your characters would pass
I'd fail.
on
Zangief would
a
fail
13. No,
because they
no.
have +3 int.
Yeah, a lot of you guys
Yeah,
have.
you're talking a one shot where you
I'm not even
wanted
talking a
where
one
people
shot.
brought 3 wizards.
I'm literally looking at, what is this? Mecha Zangief. What is your
I'd be
intelligence?
-1 to the martial check.
You don't have your helmet?
No, we got rid of that.
What'd you
I'd be
swap it
-1 to
for?
that.
I thought you
That
still had the
tattoo.
helmet. Oh, that's right. You swapped it for the tattoo. All
I
right.
didn't want to act. I didn't want Zangief
So
to be
you would be
smart.
the only person then. You'd be the only person.
No. Cody's rat. He had a +2, and he'd be +2.
No, he's got a
The only
+3.
person, he'd be a +3. He was smarter than I thought. His character. I think Bryant was the only intelligence-based character in our last campaign at all that had like that would be arguably
John,
like +5 to that.
John, I think John's a +2. I don't know. I just feel like rolling a dice and it like 50-50 is a 10, dude. Like just layman's
Yeah, in
terms.
most DCs for monsters you put against us, there's no fucking way that's gonna pass.
No, that shouldn't pass. But you guys
It's,
will roll 13s and 14s. That's
that's the
not
point.
uncommon.
But we can't identify things we don't know. Identifying if a skeleton can hear us should just be like the intelligence martial check. Like, and the skeleton, is it reacting to sounds? Like, can I fucking check this so I don't fucking waste my fucking spell slot on Dissonant Whispers because it can't fucking hear me?
So you're wanting to use a bonus action instead of your action when in actuality
That's not bonus. I want to use a bonus action instead of wasting an entire spell slot, because if we run combats like how we're supposed to, that's gonna like kill the party.
no,
I want to
because
teach
it should be
people.
your
I want to
action.
teach people to like figure that out.
Well, if you were running like a Matthew Mercer's game, they would actually use your action, and he would say, "Well, yell at it." Like they would use that as their
Well, one,
action.
if it was yelling at it, that's a free action, so that would
No,
be false.
no, they literally would make that basically the check. That would be your action.
When most D&D games I've watched, running checks and stuff like that, combat do not cost your full action.
I think in maybe not. I mean, I don't know for sure. I mean,
Because
I'm just talking of what I've watched.
a check is demanding like, what does your character know, and not your player. So like that's how intelligence checks works. So like me playing somebody who knows a bunch about dwarven stoneworking, and I'm playing a dwarf, I don't know the fucking lore about stones, but my character does. So I'd roll, and then you'd tell me what my character would know about the fucking stones.
Okay,
That is
so
an
then,
example of an
so then
intelligence checks. That'd be it's the same, except I'm rolling to see if my character knows through his life experience about this spell.
right.
And depending on how exotic you can make this check at disadvantage.
Yeah, but then you could also
Or
bring
how
it.
easy or how easy it is being like, can the skeleton hear?
Listen. Or you could also, like, I don't know. I just find so many holes in it because I could say, well, only that person knows what the effect is.
Except again, talking, free action. So he'd be like, the skeleton can hear, boys, and then he'd throw the spell.
Right. But not in all aspects would that be the effect. I don't know. I feel like you're taking it in a
That's an
very
example of
basic
the effect. She's
terms.
like, don't hit it with
I know. I feel like you're
non-magical
coming at it
attacks.
with the wrong
Throws attacks.
attitude. I don't know. We're just gonna move on. It's not going anywhere. You're more taking it as an argument when I don't know. There's issues with that. There are, and
I
rolling
don't think
dice
there
isn't
is,
the
and
answer
nothing
to
makes.
it. Yeah,
Then any
rolling.
intelligence check you'd also hate. That's not in
You
combat.
can't make the whole game a check, Wade. If you
The
make
whole
D
game
and
is
D,
checks.
no, it's not. The whole game, no, it's not. What are you talking about?
All attacks are checks. All spells are
You're only
checks.
thinking of combat. That's how you play.
All talking should be checks,
No, it's
regardless of
not.
how well you RP it.
What?
Yeah. So like
No.
charisma checks,
No,
your character should have to roll checks regardless of how well you do it,
no.
because that's how the game works
Nah.
functionally. It is. If you're trying to haggle down a piece of gold,
That's one
you're
thing.
gonna have to
That's
run a check
haggling.
regardless.
We're not talking haggling here. We're
You're
talking
trying to
an
talk
actual
yourself out of
RP.
getting arrested, RPing your way out of getting arrested. You're gonna have to run the check regardless to see if the guard buys your shit,
Nah, not all
buys
the
what you're
time.
spewing, because that's how the game is built to be played. That is the point of having a charisma stat and a proficiency in persuasion.
True.
So
I mean,
like,
I
if
understand
you
that, but
fucking
not everything is a check, though.
if you silver tongue your way out of something, like regardless, you're gonna have to fucking roll to see if the guard buys the silver tongue your way out of it. You can't just fucking like have -2 charisma and like just RP your way out of stuff.
True.
Without rolling checks.
But that wouldn't be RPing your way out of stuff. Because if your guy does have -2 charisma and you're RPing your way out of stuff, not with -2 charisma, you're not RPing properly.
Well, with -2 charisma, your guy could just be like really ugly. Like you can still like be really well spoken.
Right, but I mean, I'm just saying.
Or your voice is
that you
grating
could-
to the ears.
You
You have a really annoying voice.
You could literally still not have that be advantageous, like just because. I don't know. Anyway, all I'm saying is you can't make the whole game checks, or we'll be here all day. If you went literally every conversation, every interaction, all combat to be check, 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 dude, our combat is going to take forever.
No, I don't think adding checks to our combat would make it that much longer, because it's like 1d20 and it's like always the same fucking modifier every time.
Every time you add another roll, it adds about a minute to a minute and a half to that person.
Well, how about this? Instead of that, we'll homebrew it and we'll have to make it something only specific people can do that take it instead of another skill proficiency. How about that?
No,
that seems like that way only like one or two people at the table could have it max.
No, I don't think you should be able to use a certain amount of times. I don't think you should be able to just keep on doing it. I think you should only be able to do it like once. Period.
Well, that's weird, because you can keep on doing every other thing in the game until you figure it out.
But there's 8 of you.
Yeah, and regardless, I could keep on doing it until I figure it out with any other ability in the game.
I mean, just playing the game, shouldn't you figure it out? Like, you see the spell, you'll see its effects. Will you not?
Yeah, unless there's a hidden effect. This would allow you to put hidden effects into a spell.
I do, but then if I allow you to take that and be able to figure it out, it's no longer hidden.
That's the fucking point.
Right. Like, so what's the point of me coming up with hidden effects?
Because if I get affected by it, it isn't fucking hidden anymore, and I should be able to tell the specifics of what triggered that effect.
No, not unless you trigger it.
Yeah, if I trigger it, but if I do like 3 things in a turn and like I take damage because of the effect that I've been put under, but I don't know which of the 3 things made me take the damage.
We're going in circles. We literally just talked about this. You said it again and proved my point, and now we're just going back over it. And you think that that's what I'm saying. I can't have anything hidden. There's nothing that can be hidden, because as soon as something happens and you're nervous or the player doesn't want to deal with it, they're just going to check their way out of it. And then everybody...
They don't check their way out of it. They still get the fucking effects.
Okay, and listen,
the spell doesn't dissipate.
It does
if Thanos snapped.
It does if the effect has them move, talk, do an ability, do anything. Then they know what it does, and then they just wait. Okay, well, I'm not going to do anything. And then what? That whole part of that monster's abilities are just Thanos snapped, because I brought in something to our game that allows...
Except you give things conflicting abilities. You give something that affects somebody if they're moving. They get another effect that makes them affect if they don't move.
We're just going to go on, because you're just going to cut me off, because you think... Anyway, so now that we're off topic with the whole one-shot, let's talk about our session 0. Because we're not going to end up with that. We're just talking D&D pretty much at this point. So we'll talk about this in our session 0, where you're not just going to get all heated with me because you think it's a really good idea. Like, how do you not see that, dude? Like, out of that
I don't know how you see like Oh man, you're looking at it as a DM versus player perspective. Like it needs to
I'm
be
not
balanced.
looking at it
Like
at
it doesn't need
verse.
to be
I'm looking at it
balanced.
time versus efficiency, and is that worth it being brought in, or should it organically be happening with the amount of people we have? I'm not trying to make it about DM versus player. I'm thinking we have
Yeah,
8
I
people.
think a fighter should
All right,
know
you're gonna
if
cut me
hitting
off.
something
You're gonna
with a
cut me
hammer
off. No, you're just gonna cut me off.
or
You
a
don't want to
sword
hear me.
does it better.
Okay, well, I think that if I'm a player and I'm in a boss fight and I can't tell after a monster uses an ability what happens, and if nothing happens, that gives me a question. That's oh my god, that's fun. But if somebody's just like rolling of a dice, oh that's this because then every campaign I'm rolling an intelligence character. That's my second main stat now.
Yeah, and you
Every
saw how
fucking
well that
campaign.
went for the majority of the people in our one shot who spent most of the time on the ground bleeding out
Doesn't matter
because they don't
because
know how to play intelligence characters.
that's fine. Just because there's very few like checks that I'm, like what do you mean? If you want me to be the DM and try and always
Like an
counter the
intelligence based
party,
character is going to have to
do
they're
what?
going to have to think more about how they play, or like it doesn't matter how many fucking checks they're passed, they're just going to be on the ground bleeding out the whole time.
No,
Because that's
not
exactly what
with our
happened to
party.
John.
Not with our party. Wade, he literally could have done nothing. Could have done nothing. Separated himself from the group like Kevin did, and literally been an all-star. That takes 0 intelligence, and he could have passed every check. He could have made the dexterity and the acrobatics checks to jump because Kevin did. Like, what do you mean?
No, actually, he wouldn't have
He would
because he
have. He
didn't have
would have. It was
proficiency. He
10
was a
feet.
+1 to Dex.
It was 10 feet,
Yeah,
Wade.
and yeah, and if he rolls an 8, he fucking falls.
No. No, that's not how you play it.
Well, I was assuming the 10-foot was a DC 10 check because it was just an easy ability check, and he was only a +1 to Dex.
Oh,
so
but
an 8
when the
would fail.
building's falling and you're playing a monk and you got 40-foot movement, you scoff at me when the building's falling and I make you do an ability check for a 10-foot fucking jump. Are you shitting me right now?
Yeah, and I still passed it. I
No, no,
still
no,
did
no.
it.
Are you
I just
shitting me right
bitched
now?
then, and then I
Okay,
moved on
you're gonna die next
and rolled the
campaign
checks.
at some point now. No, I'm gonna actually be real with you on checks because you always do that. You're always like, "What? I'm a monk, dude. I got 40-foot movement." As you're falling down a building 250 foot in the air beneath you, where there's no leverage, no nothing, and you tell me on your very first jump, ladies and gentlemen, this is what this man did. I shit you not. First movement of the night. He tells me because he doesn't want to die ever. Dude, I could easily make that fucking jump. Not in character, not anything. That is exactly how he starts the session off.
Yeah, I'm a monk with 20 Dex.
20 Dex,
Proficiency in
ladies and
acrobat.
gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, he
I
has
rolled the
20
stats in front of
Dex.
you.
No, you didn't, actually.
Yeah, I did.
We'll see. Okay.
Everyone was there.
Everybody take this down. I bet you his next character, when he rolls his stats, he will not have 20 in anything. Just letting you know. His character that he rolls in this next campaign, it's this next session 0, will probably be his weakest character.
We'll probably have a 20 because I'll probably roll a 16 somewhere. So
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, if I have a 16 or a 17, I'm gonna have a 20 because we're level 7.
I mean, true. You're right. I forgot about that. Still, though, you're not gonna have 2.
Well, I got really lucky with the 2. That was actually.
Oh, I got really lucky with the 2. Anyway.
Yeah,
anyway.
I was a mountain dwarf. I had 2+2s. We used Tasha's ruling on characters, so like, yeah. And
wait.
Level
We
5.
did not use Tasha's ruling. We were not supposed to.
Yes, we did.
Not last. We were not supposed
then
to.
I wouldn't have made a mountain dwarf.
Who said we were using Tasha? You're telling me
you did.
No, I did
and
not.
And Kevin did. I told Kevin we were. That's why he.
I did
that's
not
why
tell
Steve
Kevin.
Was so cool.
I did not tell Kevin we were. What? We said we were using Tasha's at the start of our next campaign.
Well, I assumed we were using Tasha's anyway.
No.
So that means I had fucking 18, so it was really not that big of a difference.
I mean, yeah, it does. That makes you even scoffing at everything I said even worse.
No, that means dude, we said going forward we're going to use Tasha's rulings.
No,
like, what? Yes, we did.
No,
We sat
no,
at the table
no.
with Kevin, and we're like,
You
yeah, we're
did.
gonna use Tasha's
I
ruling
was
for our
never
next
even there.
characters.
Yeah, for our next
And
characters.
I
Yes.
made the character right there because I gave him my other character I made because he wanted to play a barbarian.
No.
I made the character
That
right
was
there.
all in your that was all in your brain, dude.
It's cool. You just don't remember saying that all the characters going forward we're gonna use Tasha's rulings to be ready for it. So I used Tasha rulings to make my fucking monk right there.
Wait, we even said in the rules set that we were just basic. No, what? That was never talked about. We said in our new campaign we were using that. We even talked about it on the podcast, Wade. We did. Anyway,
It's not that big of a fucking deal.
it is because you're so heated about it. This whole thing has been rah 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 rah. So anyway, we're gonna go into making characters. Wade will definitely die in this campaign now.
Yeah, sure I will.
100%.
Because you have a hate boner for me in like every
Because you
combat we've
scoff
ever
at
had.
everything I do. Okay, so let me put it this way, people. This is why we started this podcast. As you see, we had a session that was planned out, and that's gone out the window. This will be our next session. So today's is Wade and Connor bicker about D&D. I'm just going to title it right now. But so he does not role play. Okay, that's not a strong suit. Okay, now that's 99%
It's not my
of our
thing.
party. Listen, your turn to listen because you cut me off half this fucking episode. So he doesn't role play. His whole thing is combat, and if you haven't been able to tell, rolling dice and having good stats to pass checks. He does not do intelligence based things because that would make him role play. He does not want to be smart or charismatic because he would not be able to role play that. So he's just really always good in combat, and he min maxes that always. So if I ever slide him at all in combat where he is in his element, that just ruins it for him. So when I go after the strongest guy, when he's the closest guy 85% of the time, and his whole character is based off of being this huge metal man that is enormous coming at me, he thinks that it's weird that I focus him. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but if I saw 8 dudes or 7 dudes or 4 dudes and the big, huge, shiny motherfucker was running at me and it was blocking my entire vision, because I'm 6'1", maybe 6'2", and this thing that is almost 7 foot tall, 500 pounds, shoulders brighter than a fucking barn coming at me, and I'm just going to shoot spells elsewhere, I think that man has his priorities set elsewhere. That's just me. But I can't get it through fucking Wade's head to get that if he does that, he's going to be focused. So there's my rant. So how do you think about that, Wade? Huh?
Well, that's my job. So like,
Yeah, but then when I do it, you do bitch about it. You'll throw up
because
your hands.
Because you'll have an effect that's like, okay, this target's like 3 people around me. And,
Oh
like,
my
all those
God!
effects,
It was
one of those
not. I
is
said
always
everyone.
me.
No, see, he refers back to this fight that we had in this little cavern with this monster, and I said it affects you, you, and you.
Hold up, pause.
And he
One of us
said
died. You're acting like
everyone,
we're fighting like
and I'm like,
someone useless.
and I said yes.
This is like a mini boss.
I said it affects those 3 players, and he says, "Oh, well, I thought you didn't say it affected everyone." I said it doesn't. I said it affects who I choose, and he just didn't get that. He's like,
no,
"Well, how come?"
You did say everyone.
The previous round, but I can choose
Which
who
is
this
when
affects.
I took, which is what I was like, wait a minute.
Right.
It affects everyone, but he didn't take damage.
Oh, but here's where Wade
just
would
as close.
marshal check. He'd be like, "Well, then I just bonus action marshal check, and that's a 17. So yeah, he definitely passes because Wade doesn't roll anything lower than like a 20. Just so everybody knows, like his hits are like 24s on average. His whole last 2 sessions.
You gave me a +7 spear. That is your fault.
No, even before you had it, your session before that, your average hit on the last previous fight was a 24 before the spear. That is true. Brian's
Yeah, I am like +8.
Brian's
No, I'm
was
+9.
Brian's was a 17. Everybody else's, the next highest was John and Cody with a 20. And you're telling me that that's
Yeah,
why
I rolled
I'm
15s.
no, you roll hot all day, so I'm gonna see a little camera on your dice,
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
gonna
rolling
have it, and
16s.
I'm gonna have it
20,
connected.
no, 24.
I'm gonna have it connected to
That's
my
rolling
screen.
15s.
Yeah, that's amazing, Wade. On average,
You act like I never miss.
that's three
I just
fourths.
attack a
No,
lot.
you only miss once. If you attack 4 times, your chances of missing is 1 out of 4, maybe.
Yeah, that's because I'm gonna hit 50% of the time unless the monster has fucking
No, you're
20
hitting
AC.
75% of the time, even if the monster has 20 AC. You're hitting
Yeah,
right now on
I'd
a
have.
monster with 23 AC.
What's an
You're
11 out of
hitting
20? What's the percentage?
like 55.
Yeah, I have a 55% chance to hit if it has 20 AC. So being slightly better than 55% is not like you act
But
like
how
I'm
do you?
fucking cheating.
No, I'm not saying you're cheating. I'm just saying you're rolling on average 24. So if I give you a monster with 23 AC, you're gonna hit it 3 or 4
Yeah,
times
because rolling a 15
at
isn't that fucking
at
nuts.
level 6.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's wild. And there's 7 of you, sometimes
yeah,
8.
and everybody should be like on average should be hitting 50% of the time minimum. Especially no, the fact that Cody rolls like such shit, like he's +12 to hit.
No, he's plus
He'd hit that
10.
monster. No, he's +12. We gave him a new pistol that was +3.
I don't know. He's averaging 8s and
That
10s
yeah,
on most
he
of
would
his
hit that
rolls.
he would hit that monster with 23
That's
AC on
dude.
11s.
That's like average though. Like literally, Kevin, his rolls are pretty shit. And I don't know what half
Dude,
of them
Kevin's
are.
rolls are fucking awful. Real talk. Like,
No,
I don't
like
know what god he cursed.
Wade, you have hit more monsters than everybody in the party by almost double fold. Just saying, you've almost doubled Cody's hits on entire monsters. Same with John's, and you usually only get 1 attack while they get like 3 to 4.
No, I don't. We get the same amount of attacks.
No, you don't. Cody
Yeah.
literally shoots 4 to 6 times.
No, he shoots twice a turn unless he action surges, just like me.
No,
We're
he
both
has
fighters.
grit. No, he has grit or whatever.
Yeah, grit allows him to attack at advantage, not attack more.
True. That's what it is. So he's getting 4 attacks,
When he action surges, correct.
and you get 4 attacks,
When I action surge, correct.
and you get 2 on normal.
Yes.
What were your
We were
normal 2?
fighters.
Yeah, but what were your normal 2? Spear and what?
Spear and just a D6, D8. It was a D8 unless I grappled, and then it was a D6. Because I can't use both hands if I'm grappling.
So you can't spear and grapple?
I could, but like we didn't. I assumed like, yeah, I could because I could use a shield and the spear at once.
But then what? You got to put them away all within that.
I had to drop the shield, yeah, to grapple.
That's not an action or anything.
I think dropping it would be a bonus action,
Yeah.
which I did. I asked you, well, like when I tried to grapple the last boss for the campaign.
I mean, I don't think I made you do a bonus action. I think I was just like, yeah, you drop your shield.
Yeah, I think picking it up would cost something because I'd have to like put it back on. Blah blah blah. You know.
I don't know. Martial checks, maybe. We'll introduce it. I know Bryant will think it's cool, but I think it'll slow our gameplay down. Like literally.
No, with how our group works,
this is
most people are going to forget they martial check.
No, exactly. So why bring it in? That's what I was.
So that way, the people that care enough can martial check.
No, because the people that care enough already knows what's happening, Wade. That's what I'm saying.
Except we don't, though.
You're
putting information in our heads.
Right, and that's a problem. You should just know it's fire, it's doing damage, and
yeah, and I should know that, like, even though it has fire, can I still hurt it with fire?
Yeah, you can.
Does it take less damage? Does it take less damage from fire? Is it resistant to fire?
Shoot it with fire.
Should I stab it or hit it with my hammer? Which one, like, is it resistant to bludgeoning damage? I should know this because I'm a fighter who's like lived in this fucking reality my entire life, and I should know this monster if I can hit it with my hammer and it does full damage.
You've never seen this monster. That's where you're wrong.
Except most of the time, yes, they have, unless we're fighting like a mythical being.
No. Every monster you guys fought, you would not have ever fought against.
Oh, so a typical skeleton, we wouldn't know what a typical skeleton's abilities was. Just a very common monster.
It had
That's
a
the
sword
point of
and
the martial
shield.
checks is the scarier the monster, the harder the check is to pass. The thing is the easier the monster, the easier the check is to pass. So like getting like
No, it's based
shit
off
out of
its
an
hit
adult
die.
dragon is like fucking impossible.
No, it's literally based off its hit die. But how does that even equate to our party? Because our hit die, the monsters would be so high you would never be able to make a check if we're gonna use that
No,
rolling.
no, and because unless it has a hit die of 20, that's impossible.
Right, but I'm just saying, like I'm homebrewing the monsters and scaling them.
Yeah, and if you
So you
homebrew the
don't want
monsters and
me,
scale them, their hit dies don't fucking change.
right, but right, but you don't
Just the
want me
amount of
to,
health changes.
right, but you don't want me
Their hit
to.
dies remain the same.
All right. Anyway, I'm just gonna move on. I don't think I have anything else. You got anything else?
How much time we got?
I don't know. 15 minutes, if that.
Let's talk about WoW.
All right. What do you want to talk about? Wow, the crafting preview.
Yeah, let's talk about the crafting preview. So
All
like
right.
we'll talk about the crafting preview and their attack on input broadcasting.
All right. Hang on. Let me get this.
So in layman's terms, input broadcasting is like how multi-boxers are able to multi-box super efficiently. So them cracking down really hard on input broadcasting should mean that most things that you like get that are crafted are now going to be coming from like actual people's hands instead of just like bots. So that with the introduction of like crafted legendaries should make professions like needed again in Shadowlands. Because like as of right now, nothing matters because Shadowlands comes out in like 2 weeks. So like nobody gives a shit about like buying item level 72 purple gear.
Right. So
So
then, so then, what's gonna scale it into the expansion and make this gear worth a fuck over
it's going to
some?
be like Legion legendaries.
Yeah. So then, what happens once
You're
everybody
going to
gets
need it
their? Yeah, but I mean, what's to stop everybody from just now that we all have one level 50, because the XP is stupid easy to get. Now I have way more time to do my professions because I'm not leveling and doing all this
because
other
how
stuff.
professions work now, regardless of how good your professions are now, they're useless Shadowlands. So if you've looked at
Right, but I
if you
mean,
like get tailoring, right now you have Zandalari tailoring.
it's not gonna matter come
That's going to be
Shadowlands. It's
fucking
right,
worthless when Shadowlands comes out because you
right,
have to learn Shadowlands tailoring.
right. It's always
So
different.
you're starting from zero again.
Right, it's always been that way since they re-implemented it. I'm not talking about that.
Since the Legion rework of
I'm saying like what
maybe it was
makes it
Warlords, I don't remember.
worth it to actually care about it later on in the
Because
expansion.
the longer, with how it was explained in the preview, the longer and more of these items people make, the better quality of those items they can. So
So
it's
yeah, if
they
you've
start off
crafted
entry level.
4,000, you're going to
Yeah,
be
if you
able to
yeah,
make better
there's
armor.
a crafting XP bar kind of.
Right, but that's got to
So
get
like
capped, right? Because they're not going to let like some dude just become the
it's
master
probably
crafter.
if I knew how it's gonna work, it's probably gonna be capped at like the current raid tier, and then when the next tier comes out, there's gonna be a way to up it to that.
Do you think they should like give it some crazy ass
It
fucking?
with how it's gonna work just like upgrading Legion's legendaries, except it's gonna be way more in the player's hands because people really liked Legion's legendary items. They just hated how you had to obtain them. Remember, because it was just like you just randomly fucking get these,
Right.
like from anything. And like I remember like getting turned away from groups for not having the right ones. And just being like, "What?"
I
For
mean,
example.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like
Like I remember my mage getting turned away because I didn't have the hero ring, which allowed me to hero on cooldown because I wouldn't get sapped from it. I mean, it was busted, but like a mage without that did significantly worse than the mage that had it. So quick refresher, in Legion you can only have 2 legendaries equipped, and like that, if you're a mage, that was one of them, and the other one could be a fucking grab bag. I don't remember, but like that one was like best in slot, and you needed to have it, or groups wouldn't take you. At least they didn't take me. I got turned away from like 6 ahead of the curve groups because I didn't have the ring.
I don't know. I
But taking the RNG from that whole system,
That was what people
introducing
hated from
crap.
Legion, though.
Yeah. Take no people hate. Yeah, that's the point. They're taking the things people liked because people liked the ring. People liked the cool legendary effects. People just hated how you had to fucking get them. Now they took all that away, all that bullshit. That's like, oh yeah, I just opened my weekly box and I got my best in slot legendary randomly, or I did a daily, got my legendary. They're taking all that and just being like, yeah, players can fucking make these now. And you're gonna make them and you're gonna empower them yourself, so on and so on, giving you the cool legendaries that you liked from Legion without any of the fucking bullshit of like they're like you have to grind every day and hope you get it.
Right, we don't want to be doing that. But I also don't have to farm Azerite forever. And you didn't even have to do the visions. So you never even saw those.
True.
Those are like,
From what I know about BFA, people didn't hate Azerite. It was the fact that there was
no.
Azerite and corruption
And visions. Yeah, it was
and
like,
visions. There was like a bunch of shit. Like if people would have loved Azerite if there was just Azerite. But
same
they
with the
like
corruption. I feel like people would have really loved the corruption if it was
if that
just
was
the
the only
corruption,
if that
right?
was only the is that the only mechanic.
But it also had that mechanic where it's like, oh, I need to get this piece of gear with also this piece of like random enchant on this piece of gear. And there's
Yeah,
no
that was
way.
another thing. It had the Borderlands effect. Or like
And I think they
you
even
could get a
implemented.
piece of gear, but like the piece of gear's things were random. So like you had to keep running it, just like Destiny 2 and
Yeah.
Borderlands, where like you couldn't only get a piece of armor,
And
you
that's
had
why
to
they
get a
didn't make
good
it the main
version of
thing.
that piece of armor.
Well, that's why they didn't make it the main thing because I think they knew that that was kind of flawed and that was a way for like the real end gamers who are going to grind and grind and grind. It would give them something to really do, you know? I mean, yeah, pissed a lot of people off, but look at how many people are playing WoW now. I mean,
Yeah, because they got rid of it, and the
they're
fact that a
still.
lot of people are home more. So there's like that's multiple factors. The reason Shadowlands is doing so well.
Well, Shadowlands isn't even out yet, and it's doing well. I guess what I'm saying. Like, I'm talking BFA. Like, I'm saying BFA, before they removed the corruption from the gear, people were farming it. Like, it gave you a reason to farm and do dungeons and to do your visions. And yeah, it was annoying, but if you got good gear, you had good gear. You didn't care. But there were people who cared. They were like, no, I need this best in slot. Like, I need to be literally kitted. And if they weren't, why play the game? And when they're not, and they're making it really hard, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I hate that it was RNG. I think they implemented a way to like
See,
add the
that's what
stats
people
onto
hated
it.
about it.
Well, I think
Is
they added on later on a way that you could like. I could be wrong, but I think when they changed the way that the mother interaction worked with like whatever that forge was, you could buy the gear with it on it. I don't know. I may be wrong. I could have sworn that they changed something about that later on before they removed the corruption from the gear. But I don't know. I mean, it was fun. It added something really cool to the game because if you wore a ton of corruption, you start seeing shit. Like literally, you'd have to fight illusions of yourself mid boss fight, or you'd have some tentacles start fucking, crawling at you and doing damage to you and start. I mean, it was cool. I mean, I don't know. You'd be in the middle of a
yeah,
boss fight.
we can talk about like the one or two cool sides of it, but like there was too many downsides. Because like, let's be real, like I mean, everyone wants to be a fucking mythic raider, but like at the end of the day, the majority of the people that play WoW just aren't that fucking hard in the paint. So like
True.
adding effects that are just for those people and detrimental to the normal WoW player
I don't think it was
is dumb.
detrimental. It wasn't detrimental because your average WoW player was like, "Oh, cool, I got a piece of gear that like does something." And then your high end
Yeah, but it's
raider,
not good.
I think it was more detrimental. Yeah, but they didn't know that. They didn't know that. Like that was a thing. I think you have it backwards. I think the
Yeah,
high end
no, no,
raider was
no,
like,
no,
"Fuck
no.
this."
Your casual WoW player goes. They Google wow, Warrior Fury DPS enter, and they go to fucking Icy Veins, and they're
Yeah.
like, well, to perform well as a Fury Warrior, you're gonna need this corruption and this Azerite effect, and blah, 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 blah.
I
So like,
mean,
and then they're like, but how do I get that? Well, so we got farm this raid 75 times in these visions, in this Azerite,
yeah.
and blah blah blah,
That
and
was
blah
it.
blah
No,
blah.
that was literally it, dude. And that's why I played my warrior, and that was fucking it. And he did everything. That's why I completed everything because you fucking had to. Like, you wanted to have a good expansion on a character, do everything. Like, I didn't even get to do all the masks because I just ran out of time because I had a life. Like, and I was moving and everything. But I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot.
If to complete anything
All right,
besides
last
Mythic
thought, and
raiding
then we're gonna
requires
wrap this
like
up with a
a
final thought.
fucking job level of commitment, I think the game is a little too much for your everyday player.
Yeah. All right, so last things, and then we're gonna cut it to the end. Say our shout outs. Anything else on our banter? By the way, everybody, if you've listened this long, even though half of you maybe probably just cut out when we start arguing, that's kind of us. Um,
We've
we
known
get
each other since we
yeah
were
yeah
9.
we can get heated over nothing, and we're just gonna let it roll, baby. I mean that's what we're here
That's
to
why it's
do.
talking shit,
Yeah,
if
we're just
we're gonna be
talking shit.
honest.
So like, I mean, we have those. I mean, we're not even necessarily right or wrong. It's just a debate between us, and that's pretty much how we roll. So I don't know. I think we're gonna implement it some way. I don't know if that'll be our way. I think that every group will. I think the answer to that is that we'll talk about it, and there'll be something that everybody will be like, yeah, that makes sense, or maybe someone will just flat out be like, you know what, I feel like this and I want to change it. Or maybe they feel like it'll ruin the experience. It's whatever the group wants. If the group is like, hey, I think this is going to enhance the playability of our campaign and the fun and everything because now I can do that, cool. But I'm telling you right now, if combat takes longer, you're not going to like it and you're going to be the one that implemented it into our game. I'm just saying it right now. And I can be like, ha, I told you so. Just saying it. Because I think that, just imagine Cody,
I don't know.
John,
I can't,
and
dude.
everybody else that
If
already
I
have a hard
watched
time
one other
learning.
person waste a fucking spell slot on
But
like
that
creature
should just
immune to
be,
charm,
yeah, but that should just be something that is done once. One person does, it's over with. The party realized it and they move on and they go about their life. It shouldn't be, oh, that guy used it and then that guy wasn't paying attention, so he used it. That's that's my issue is that we already have people that we think we need to have focus possibly more sometimes. So if we can bring that back, like if I can get you to quit talking across the table to Brian about some rule and I can, get whatever else to get accomplished, then we can get more done within the game faster. But the more people roll dice, the more people talk. That's the truth. When people are rolling dice, that's when people start talking. That's why when anybody is like,
yeah, we
"Oh,
need to
we need
make it
more,"
perfectly clear that it's not fucking okay.
I mean,
If I'm gonna be honest,
I get that. I get that. We'll talk about that. That's
like we're
session
all
zero thing.
adults.
I know. We'll talk about that honestly till the end of
It's not
time.
like anybody's 12.
No, I literally thought that like I was listening to a couple other just YouTubers and stuff that I listen to talk about DMing, and everybody always makes their show and everything sound like it's just this fucking glamorous like critical role experience. When in actuality it's just this fucking barnyard shit storm of a dumpster fire, and in their mind it's way better than it really is. But we're gonna start recording ours, so everybody will just see what kind of a fucking dumpster fire it really is. Or maybe we are the like over, elitist, yada yada yada, you know.
Nah, I don't think we are. I don't think we are because I don't think making people not fucking talk over you or
Okay,
have
that
small
that doesn't
talk
always
about certain
happen though. Like we
things.
make it sound like it's a big deal, but that's maybe happened like
No,
once.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't happen once. We just bring up the most vicious version of it, but it happens every session.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a thing though. I feel like that's
Like
just a
I'll do
thing.
it, John will do it, Bryant will do it. Like they'll just sit over there and they'll have their conversation, or I'll argue about a rule, and
Yeah.
it'll just take time. And then every time it'll just distract someone,
All right.
and that way
We know. We know.
people just have to like snap back and they're like, "Oh, it's my turn. I'm actually playing a game instead of just sitting around a table and talking."
And on that, we're going to call it a day. Make sure to go follow, subscribe. Thank you for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoy. This is episode 5. I forgot to say it in the fucking beginning, but that's where we're at, episode 5. Hopefully, we'll be releasing these a little bit quicker, but until the next time, guys, have a great one. Thanks for listening.